Going on YouTube, it's AyoRichie. They're gonna say, why am I whispering? That's just the norm. I'm a lot better at talking in front of the camera when, there's a live chat and I know I'm talking to people. We know this. We've been it. Anyways, man's looking bummy. Moustache is going crazy. Hair's going crazy, whatever. But that is because of a little announcement. DreamHack Sweden. AyoRichie is there. Leo Claesson will hopefully be on stage competing at a big event. Some people have, obviously showcased Leo on stream and stuff at some events, and that's hella dope, of course. We had Dojin recently in DreamHack Dallas. We had a few other Leo players showcase on the big stage. We had Combo Breaker with Raider, and I'm sure there was many more, but those are a few that I've seen recently that I can name. So people are playing Leo, which is dope and very sick to see. But yeah, DreamHack Sweden, I'll be going there. So obviously I'm waiting a little bit in order to get a trim. Better to get the trim just before going, so it looks sharp and whatnot. But yeah, the reason for this video is I kind of wanted to just talk about the character Leo and why I think of Leo from low level all the way up to high level. So I think on the forefront, as you're learning Leo's move list, the things that you're going to get most comfortable using are the strings. So as a newer player, your back 1-4s, back 1-1+2 into Bok, these kind of things. K and K pressure, that's just the basic stuff. Throwing out moves like forward 4-3, up forward 2-1 into heat burst, which is something that translates through all levels because it can be used and is effective at all levels. So there's that. As you go up, obviously that's like the basic stuff for the basic for the newer players playing Leo. As you get up higher into intermediate, you're gonna find the Leos that are doing things like dash, hell sweep to mix their opponent. More back 1-4 stuff is still viable at that point. Crouch dash mix up is now in play. QCF 2-1 at any given opportunity in neutral, without really worrying about what your opponent's gonna do to deal with it, because it's kind of hard to deal with. But if your opponent has a read on it, then you get countered, and yeah, it's not ideal to keep abusing. Basically, you're probably gonna be using more moves. You're gonna be using things like back 1+2 string. Probably not poking as much. Probably going for more launchers, down forward 2s. Again, up forward 2-1, things like that. The reason I wanted to just talk about this on cam and not through a video is because I feel it's very easy to do so in it, because I'm not multitasking. I'm just kind of talking about what I want to speak about, and that's it really. So you're getting the hang of maybe K and K cancelling the neutral in order to apply more pressure to your opponent. You're now using heat a bit as well. Your heat into heat smash, heat into back to 1+2 heat dash. And yeah, that's probably the stuff you're doing at intermediate levels of play. And as you get higher and you're now approaching the high level play and playing Leo, you're thinking about so many different things. Your character's move list. You kind of have an idea of how you like to play. You're using more pokes, down 4, trying to get comfortable using pokes and seeing how your opponent responds, getting randomed out a lot, but that's normal. Certain times you'll just go back to basics, back 1-4s, forward 4 pressure. Obviously you have a bit more defensive knowledge now because you've been playing for a long period of time. But things you're going to want to factor in a bit more as you go higher up, from what I've experienced, is that your gameplay needs to become a little bit more risky, and you need to have random timing. That is an important thing in this game, because if you look at other characters, you have characters like Shaheen, Victor, Azucena. Azucena recently nerfed, so she's probably not too much of a threat now, but these characters, they thrive off weird timings. So if a Victor player is very strong, as we've seen Farzine showcase Victor very recently and very well, he was playing against Joe Crush, and he managed to almost always catch him with back 1+2. Now this is a move that is I-15 high power crush, so it does many things. Now Leo doesn't have a move like that really, so when you have to obviously take what you have in it, you have to take what your character has, of course. Leo has things that Victor doesn't have, sure. You know, QCF1 a load that you can get in from any range. Down 4, which is -11. You know, just some examples. But one thing I'm starting to realize about this game is that you need to get to a point where you're very comfortable with throwing stuff out and testing if your opponent is ready to deal with that. And it doesn't matter who you're playing against. Like, the way Leo is designed is that, like, you're trying to get that read that is going to win you the round. But you have to you don't have to go for it, because obviously there's other ways to win, of course. You can out neutral your opponent, like play better Tekken than them, of course. Leo has some good Tekken tools. But I think what separates Leo players is that the extra stuff, like the down back threes, the 4-2+3s, the Sabakis, the up back 1 parries, you know, all this extra stuff is what will take you to a point where you are making a high level player, like it's maybe a Korean player or a Japanese player, or, you know, your Anakins, your Joey Furies, the high level players. You're making them think way more about what they can do now, because you've added something to the mix, instead of just playing a normal game and trying to outplay your opponent. Because if you just try to outplay your opponent with Leo, the chances of winning are, I wouldn't say they're too high, because it's so hard to control the game with the character. Because there isn't really that button that kind of does everything for you. You know, you have to commit to something and kind of hope that they don't have that particular counterplay ready there and then. Like a up 4-2-1, is my opponent going to sidestep right against it? Back 1-4, is my opponent going to sidestep left? In neutral, 1-2, or like down 4 into 1-2, just trying to do something simple. Opponent sidewalks right, or plus frame situation, or QCF1 into Boston in 4. Is my opponent going to sidestep left and launch me if I try to, you know, follow that up with anything? Obviously, the higher you go, you realize that you have to change the timing and you can't just be predictable with what you go for. But when you do that, you give away frames, you give away so much from, you know, your offensive game plan. And in Tekken 8, you have to be offensive. So when you have to keep delaying and hesitating with your options, you know, the game becomes even more random. So Leo is a character that obviously you can't play just, you know, QCF1, now I'm going to do full crouch sweep. QCF1, now I'm going to do Boston in 4. QCF1, now I'm going to do Boston in 3. You know, you can't just play that basic, you know, mix-up. You can't do that basic mix-up on your opponent at the highest level, because it's not going to continue working. You know, like, you can go for it, but it's just not that thing that's going to help you get through a long bracket against top player after top player after top player. So you have to play into the being unpredictable thing. So I think, you know, these moves like down back threes, the parries, you know, they have to work for you on that day, on that given day. So the reason you probably won't see Leo thriving too, like, often, too commonly, is for that reason. There's just so many different ways to play the character that there's no, you know, fine print on what works. Like, there just isn't. There's other characters where you can cycle through a few moves and the opponent has to play perfectly around those few moves in order to have a chance. And that is kind of the state that the game's in, I guess, because you have characters like Zafina, you have Feng, you have Alyssa, and they're not doing too many things, but the things they're doing are so obnoxious. But Leo doesn't have those things available, really. Like, Leo is great, of course. I think Leo in a longer set, you know, that character's nuts. You know, we have the hit confirmable down back 2-4. We have down 4, which is just an unbelievable low. just in general, there's just so many good tools, but it's just like, which ones do you kind of keep going for? Because the tools won't always give you, enough in the match to find the momentum to take you through the round. And then there's not that that clear decision at the end of a round to end the game. You might go for like things like while standing 1-4. Obviously, a good high level player will be ready for something like that and try and go for a low parry. Or you can do like while standing 1 into down 4 just to fake out your opponent, obviously, and change the timing on the follow up. Or like obviously at the end of a round, it's very random in what happens. So there's so many options that can happen. So it's not really too important, when it comes to round enders. But yeah, I just think throwing around moves like down 2 and neutral, these moves are just pretty slow and it's not usable at every range. You kind of have to make sure you're with your opponent, in front of your opponent. But obviously the situation on block is, it's very stressful for your opponent to deal with. So it's good, but again, you can get mashed out if you do anything that is, outside of your frame range. So yeah, you got to be careful with that. I want to keep talking about what I mean by like being very like unpredictable with the moves you're using. So like moves like forward 3+4, forward 1+2, newly a counter launcher. This move is -14. Forward 2 gives you what forward 1+2 gives you really, and is safer. But the thing with that is that like the hitbox on FF2 is, I believe, a little bit smaller than forward 1+2, and obviously forward 1+2 is a counter launcher. So if you land that counter launcher, that round is probably yours. You're going to be getting about 100 damage. You're going to the wall, and obviously if FF2 hits, it's a single hit, and the situation after it is okay. You can run up and try and enforce something, but it's nothing too insane. But yeah, I think when it comes to the highest level and what's gonna, make you stand out and, take out that big name, you definitely have to step away from just the basic Leo play and, use these crazy moves like forward 1+2, down back 3, forward 4-3, or no, forward 4 by itself, since this move also tracks to Leo's weak side, so it can be useful. And if people get comfortable punishing it, you have the forward 4-3-4 follow up. So people that aren't sharp with dealing with that will end up, getting counter hit launched and stuff. So there is that as well. But like I said, I don't think there's a clear-cut way to win with this character. I just think you have to outplay your opponent, and sometimes you just have to just use certain things that you just wouldn't really go for in order to stay unpredictable. So just throwing out forward 1+2s. The thing is, people won't punish it optimally every time as well. So this is something you have to think about. The block stun is kind of mad as well. And I just think the fact that they've made it a counter launcher, that was probably the incentive to be like, yo, you should try this move. The same way that I tell people to use back 1+2 as well. Back 1+2 string, if all of that lands, is 61 damage. And it's not recoverable health. I've said it many a time. So yeah, I think that's it for today's video. I just thought I'd get in front of the camera and just talk about just how you should approach the game at those levels. Obviously, I didn't go into too much depth with beginners and intermediates, but at high level, we need to find what is going to work against the high level players, because the character Leo doesn't seem too oppressive. So there has to be something else that you can make work in order to compete. So yeah, this has been my thoughts and kind of an update on how I see Leo in this game. And yeah, if you like the video, please leave a like, comment and subscribe. If you want me to get in front of the camera and just talk about certain things Leo related, Tekken related in the future, then I can definitely do that. And yeah, other than that, take it easy everyone, and peace.